If you're into photography, then when you're buying a device, I think the first thing that you will have to go through or you would want to look at is the amount of megapixel that the device has. So whether you are buying a mobile phone or you are buying a DSLR camera, the first thing that you will notice is how many megapixel that device has, right? So why do we do that, and what does that megapixel mean? I think pixel and megapixel is the terminology that you keep hearing, and it might sound really similar to each other. You might think that both of these terms has the same meaning, but it is not. Pixel is quite different to megapixel, and today we are going to discuss about what pixel actually is and what megapixel is. So if we have to talk about the terminology pixel, so you can see in the word formation itself, the pix means the picture and the el comes from the terminology elements. So combining these both, any element which determines the picture quality, or otherwise the picture of a photograph, is what pixel is. So you might be curious about how any pixel makes any difference to a photograph. So what pixel does, it makes the clarity in the photograph. So when you see a photograph, it has been made by thousands of pixels. So that is where the megapixel in your camera phone or your DSLR camera comes from. Pixel consists of very small and fine dots, and all of these fine dots come together to create a major element, right? So each pixel has 3 to 4 different colors. So basically pixel is made of primary colors. So you all know the primary colors, which is red, blue and green, and also it is also formed with some other colors, some other secondary colors like cyan, yellow, black and even magnets. So all of these colors blend in together to create whatever color that we can see or visualize from our eyes. So with the mix of all of these colors, every color that we see in our surrounding, whether be it white or be it pink or whatever color it is, all of these colors blend in together to give that picture effect in your photograph. Without these pixels, your photograph would have been black and white or it would have been dull. So to add the color in the photograph, pixel plays a major role in the overall scenario for your photography. So if you look at just an inch of an LED screen, then there are millions of pixels in just an inch. So you cannot even count how many pixels are there with your naked eyes. It is very small and fine dots, and each pixel has its own intensity and each pixel has its own color. So all of these colors and intensity, they are determined as to how the images need to be reflected or how the image need to function. So this is the major criteria on how pixel works. Now let's talk about megapixel. So how megapixel is different from pixel, if we have to talk about it, then 1 megapixel is about 1 million pixels. So when you say that your phone has 48 megapixel camera, then that means it has that amount of 48 million pixels in the camera. There is a misunderstanding among the people that the number of megapixel helps to better the image of the photography, but that's completely not true, because even if the megapixel is low, you can still get a high quality picture, but it just needs to function, or the intensity of how the megapixel functions is really important. So you can see that Apple phone, it does not have that much high amount of megapixel as compared to your Android phones, right? But still it gets very high quality image. How is that possible? Because especially in Android phones, the pixels are very finely divided, and compared to that in Apple phones, which is not that finely divided. So it just needs to work or function according to the demand, right? And the intensity and the color is determined by how the photography needs to be presented, and that is where the megapixel comes in. In simple terms, if I have to say, that megapixel is what determines the resolution of the image and how your photography is presented. So the zooming factor on how big you can zoom and how clear the photograph is determined by the megapixel. So the number of megapixel can impact the zooming factor. So when you are zooming it, the image does not blur, or the image does not does not blur out too much. If it gets clear, then that means your phone has a higher megapixel camera. So that is how the pixel and the megapixel work in. It gives the shape or the color or the overall outlook to your photography, giving it a life and making it viable to be posted everywhere, right? So that is where the pixel and the megapixel comes in. So it's a very basic concept, but I hope you got to know more about it through this video. With this, we have come to the end of our video, and we would like to come with more informative videos like this. Thank you so much for watching this video. Namaste.